Good day and welcome to the dining room table. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander is holding a press conference to discuss a contract that his office reviewed regarding the migrant crisis. The migrant crisis is expected to be up to $12 billion, and there is this contract. There is a little over $400 million that provides uh, the setup of emergency housing for individuals like in the migrant crisis. So the controller's office reviewed it. They were not happy with what they saw, and the contract was still issued. So he is going to conduct real-time audits to follow the contract. Let's hear from him. You can subscribe, like, and share.
We're here today to announce that the Comptroller's Office is commencing a real-time audit of HPD's contract with Go. That's the first time in my administration that we are conducting a real-time.
So it's a little choppy to hear. What he's saying is, in the first time in his administration, that they're going to do a real time audit. They're going to audit it as it goes. Normally, they would do the audit at the end.
Contract audit. A typical audit of a contract or a program is done at the end of the program or the contract. Let the contract complete. Then you go and get all the records, compare the invoices to what was done. This is the first time again in my administration, and perhaps longer than that we are commencing audit at the very beginning of a contract. So starting the very first invoice that DocGo submits to the city, we will be looking to make sure that invoice is appropriate, that they actually delivered the services, that it complies with the contract, and the C documentation. We will be looking at many of the areas of concern that we raised in the letter when we returned this contract to HPD and encourage them to reconsider whether it made sense to move forward with .go or not. They have indicated that they are moving forward with this contract over our objective.
So the Housing Authority, HPD, said they are going to continue with the contract, even though his recommendation says that they should not. However, he is still going to take all the documentation and monitor that they're doing what the contract says that they're supposed to be doing, and just follow the money. That's what he's saying. And that's what the controller, he's saying, would normally do at the end of the contract.
Objections, a right that the charter gives them, but because those concerns very much continue, we're taking one step and we're considering a second step. The step we're taking today, is to launch that real-time audit, so that New Yorkers can have confidence that every single invoice is being scrutinized, that we are really paying careful attention to what we're being billed for and what. And the other step that we're considering is that last July we authorized the administration to utilize what's called a blanket prior approval. Under the charter, when the administration wants to use emergency procurement, they need, which gives them flexibility in the contract. They're reduced from some of the requirements that procurement normally require to get multiple competitive bids.
So normally when a service is needed, there would be an RFP, there would be proposals, it would be a bidding process. But when there's an executive order, it's an emergency. So they have to get these products and these services and these companies right away. So it doesn't go through all of that. And that's what he's explaining. But he would like to see a process where, even though it's not so much a bidding process because it's an emergency, that there should be that shouldn't take away from reviewing more than one proposal, as in cost and experience and services they provide, the whole package.
They have to come both to the controller's office and to the law department for prior approval for proceeding with emergency. And the arrivals are becoming such significant numbers last July, we get the law department votes that will grant a blanket prior approval. What we were mostly expecting was Department of Homeless Service shelter contracts, hotel contracts, and we also specifically named the contract to stand up the navigation system. Over the last year, a couple of things have changed. One, while there is still absolutely the need for urgency and flexibility for procurement, the situation is no longer unanticipated. There's a great phase to plan. And then second, have extended way beyond the additional contracts and that one services contract. So we're considering whether to narrow or to revoke that blanket prior approval and go back to the situation that normally pertains, which is any agency can submit an emergency, a request to us to utilize emergency procurement, and we will consider granting prior approval for that specific contract, and the law department will do the same. Again, we're not announcing that we're doing that today, but we're taking a look at it because emergency procurement is one important ability that city agencies have, but it cannot be a blank check to enter into a no-bid $432 million contract with a medical services firm that doesn't have experience providing shelter and services to asylum seekers without the adequate due diligence and integrity that is required. I'll stop there, and I'm glad to have your questions, and then I can also make some one-on-one time for folks who need it.
What would it take for you to get to that second step?
We've got some dialogue underway with the law department because the prior approval is something that both the law department and the controller's office need to grant. So there'll be some dialogue with the law department, some additional internal conversation here. I want to make sure excuse me. I want to take a little look at, because in this term, we've signed off on 303 emergency procurements. So I'm asking the team just to look a little at those. How many of them? I think 69 of them were covered by the blanket prior approval, but that means we've actually done over 200, I think, individual reviews. We generally turn those around very quickly. So we want to do a little more internal review of what those are and have been, be confident that we can respond to them promptly, individually, and talk to the law department.
So is it more like a logistical thing to make sure that the administration can still operate, or is it more like if you discover something worse about this contract, then you'll think that's that?
Oh, it's not so relevant to the DocGo. What we're looking at in thinking about the blanket prior approval is really not any longer relevant to the DocGo contract. I mean, the DocGo contract illustrates some of the DocGo contract illustrates some of the kinds of concerns we have that the blanket prior approval is too broad, right? What we were imagining a year ago was a shelter contract for a hotel in New York City of the kind that we have a lot of. And it's easy for our team to say, yes, you can move forward quickly to enter into that contract and count on, us to file it in the system when it comes. If you do something far beyond what's standard, that's going to take more review. And in this case, because of the blanket prior approval, it didn't get it. They were able to move it through. So that's what is. But we've been looking at this for a little while.
So does it seem sort of like an inevitability once you hash this out with the law department, or is
I'm sorry, say that again.
Does it seem like an inevitability that you will get to this point once you hash it out with them?
I don't want to say, whatever. No, who knows what's an inevitability? We wouldn't be publicly, indicating that we're reconsidering it unless we were looking at it pretty seriously. But I will say it could be narrowed rather than revoked. We might just say, look, bring us every contract individually, and we'll move it promptly through our prior approval review process. Or we might say, here are some types of contracts that could still be covered by